not a bad one. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday live stream. So today we'll take a look at if this is a time to sell or sell off or sell everything, or maybe there's some alternatives. And also, we're going to take a look at what's going on now. We're also going to take a look at what's going on potentially in the future. And as always, I am joined by my friend, Don Jerry. Don Jerry, welcome back.
Hola, amigo mías.
Hola otra vez. Bueno, otro video en domingo con todos juntos en el mundo. Okay. Let's talk about what's going on in the markets. And first of all, welcome everybody. It's Sunday. Hopefully there's not a big, massive sell-off. We should be okay. But as a reminder, we're coming up into that time frame if you have a Roth IRA. And just so you know that if you until April 15th, and then you can contribute to 2025. Now, there are limits every year, so just let you know. If you're looking to say, well, why would I do a Roth IRA? Well, that's what Peter Thiel did. He put his penny stocks, called PayPal back in the day, into his Roth IRA. Now it's worth billions of dollars, and guess how much he pays in taxes? 0.0%, which is the same thing it's offering with iTRUST for Bitcoin and a whole host of crypto digital assets. Sign up now, get $100 for your funding. So anyhow, that's what's going on in the Roth world. Let's take a look at what's going on in the markets. Jerry, first of all, are you surprised at these prices today? Looks like Bitcoin's can't hit 83.
No, I'm not. I think there's a lot of capital being moved, right? Assets going from here to there to accommodate new strategies. And it doesn't surprise me that the most easily accessible market on the planet is seeing the numbers that we're seeing. It's really easy to move crypto. It's not easy to sell your property.
That's true. And also, you can't do too much with your ETFs on the weekend, can you?
Right. No.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Cronus is up 30%. Hey, didn't they have an issue with them like unburning a massive amount of their tokens? I guess people thought it was pretty good time to buy. This is for crypto.com.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyhow, so we're not, so this is today. And of course, this is a very snapshot of zooming in. So let's just take a look as we always do on Sundays, because what we're trying to do is as time goes on, depending on what happens, depending on if tariff comes in and it's not a big nothing burger, that'll be April 2nd. We take a look at reciprocal tariffs. If we see what's happening with Jerome Powell and he decides, you know what, maybe we should start cutting rates a little bit more. Or maybe there is a de-escalation in geopolitical tensions with Ukraine and Russia, and the ceasefire actually goes through. And of course, we don't see anything else that's coming up as like a black swan event. Maybe with all those things going into play, we have a pretty good situation and the money printer gets turned on, not just in the United States, but globally as it is right now. And we see a big bull run. When that happens, the big question is when do we take profits? So today, would this be a great day to sell? And the answer is, of course, as always, maybe. Depends on your situation. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is the MVRV Z-score. Or this would be the Bitcoin market value to realized value score. It just takes the market value, which of course is the tokens in circulation times the price, and the realized value. And this is a standard deviation, pulls out the extremes, and we'll take a look at if it's undervalued or overvalued. And we can see that as time has gone on, in 2017, we seem to have a big uptick in that, and the MVRV Z-score was over almost 9. Then in 2021, February, March, around, was this almost 8? And as of today, we are barely at 1.73. So Jerry, would you think this is a good time to sell?
There's only one case, and that is if I looked at my taxes and I have a huge capital gain that I need to offset, I would consider tax loss harvesting if I had the ability to capture a loss to offset any like monster gain that I wasn't prepared to deal with.
Yeah, I can see that. So
other than that, this is not necessarily a good market to be selling into.
No, it is not. Hey, before we go on, I'm just briefly take a look at the chats. Steady Bug had a good comment already. He says, Monday, we will see the mass exodus. This is interesting. We're getting to the point where I don't think people are capitulating out of fear anymore. I just think they're done. Jerry, thoughts?
Wow. I think that's a compelling question to consider. I don't have a knee-jerk response to it. But I could easily see a very large segment of the retail market not being able or coming to grips with the market that we're in and saying, you know what, I just don't want to be on these tidal wave rides anymore. It takes too much out of me because I can remember being new in the market and man, it was like I was seasick all the time. The way we did this constantly. It's like, where's my Dramamine, please? There's a case to be made here. Steady bug.
There is a case to be made. I will say like this. I see that there are people that are going to start selling. They're going to start selling a lot because I think Steady Bug's correct. And we see this all the time. And I'm not going to sit here and say, well, you should stay and you should do what you want to. No, I think it's what's best for you and at your specific time frame. And it never ceases to not surprise me of how this keeps repeating over and over and over again. I saw it in 2018, 2019, 2020. We saw it again. And of course, 2022 was a pretty bad year as everything pretty much collapses. All the trust was wiped out. 2023 was a little bit rebuilding. 2024 was great. Now we're in 2025. We're like, hey, everybody told us about this bull run. It's not happening. It's not happening now. I'm out. And not only that, it's just we have the macro effects in the background and people are like, I don't like that. And I will tell you, and Jerry, I know you got a point, but I just want to share something with everybody. When everybody thinks it's like the worst time to this is it, I got to capitulate, I'm out of here. I want you to remember this story. So, hold on. This was an article about Novogratz. I don't know if you guys knew this, but New York Attorney General Letitia James reached a $200 million settlement with Galaxy Digital over its role in the 2022 Terra Luna collapse. The firm allegedly promoted Luna while secretly liquidating its position. I'm going to say that again. The firm allegedly promoted Luna while secretly liquidating its position, thus contributing to the token's collapse. And I think it's like when we hear of the big names come out and go, you know what? It's going to be awesome. It's going to be just fantastic. It's going to go up forever. Banana Zone. It's great. And then all of a sudden, they were behind the scenes dumping on us. And now it seems like everybody's more quiet. And they're like, you know what? We got recession. I talked about stagflation yesterday. And it seems like maybe and I'm just going to put it out there, maybe it's like an opposite PSYOP game in some way, shape, or form. However, I don't know if it is or not. But it is something to consider when everybody's pumping their bags like Novogratz here. Shame on him. But Jerry, what do you got with this one?
I was just starting to type in. I wanted to bring up the supporting documentation. I read this element it was a post on X, and it talked about 27% of mortgages are late.
Yeah,
late or in near danger. And that was, so when you start thinking about why would somebody sell their digital assets, right? If it's such an incredible investment and one you should hold on to, why would you sell it, especially in a somewhat bear market? Well, if it's true that 27% of mortgages are in danger of being delinquent because they are late, and there's a sequence in which they measure this lateness by 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Maybe the overall economic position of the world is just bad. It's not great. It's not great. Yeah. And so I think we should always keep in mind there's a world outside of crypto that influences crypto.
Yeah, and I think it's the same song we've heard forever. When the economy goes down, of course, and then the markets go down. The markets and economy, there's different. They're not the same thing. But it seems like the people that have the fortitude and the funds to do this and to stay solvent, those are the ones that come out the other side. I remember in 2008, 2009, when everybody was just losing their homes left and right. We had a friend, his name David in El Paso, and he was ecstatic about what was happening. And he bought up so many houses and apartment complexes and just flat out land because he could weather the storm. And he could just say, you know what? It sucks right now. And all the valuations that I did right now are going in the toilet. But I know in a couple of years, and he said it could be 10, I don't know. Because I know these things will appreciate because assets appreciate. And I think right now it comes down to people looking at it going, I don't think I can do it. And if you can't do it, then that's it. That's the game. And I'm not here to tell you got to stay in all the time, but I'm telling you, for me, and maybe for Jerry, if we have the ability to stick around, we'll probably stick around. That's how I see it. All right. So good points. And we'll finish. I mean, not finish, but we'll talk about like just a couple of different indicators to take a look at. The Puell multiple, pretty good stuff. Divides the value of daily issuances in USD by that 365-day moving average of the daily issuance in USD. Looking at market cycles, lens of mining profitability. This is all about miners. Daily issuance in dollars is high compared to 365-day moving average. And this is what the miners are going through. And right now, the Puell multiple for valuations, we can see that again. Back in 2021, we peaked out around March, April. Did the same thing in 2017. And right now we are below 1. Are we at 1? Oh, we're at 1. So I guess neither here nor there. But yeah, again, not looking too good here for a time to sell. And then the Bitcoin net unrealized profit and loss. Now this one looks actually it's a little bit more favorable because the price of Bitcoin has done extremely well as compared to, I don't know, say like Ethereum, right? If you've been buying and dollar cost averaging Ethereum, it's not looking so good for you, right? But if you do the same thing with like, say like Solana and XRP, you're looking great. It just depends. But with Bitcoin, it's one of those tokens that are looking pretty good. NUPL is 0.47. It was all the way up to almost 0.65 back in November. Not a bad time to take some profits, just saying. And then across the board in February, March 2021, December 2017, and so on and so forth. And of course, these indicators, you can find those at on Ben's site, links in the description. And that's it for those pieces. So Jerry, anything I missed about like selling, not selling? What we're doing?
I don't think you missed anything. I think one of the only elements I would add to that segment of the show is there are always two sides to the story, right? So there's what's going on outside of the person and what's going on with the person. And we talked about some people may not be able to weather this storm. The one part that not a lot of people talk about is how you can weather a storm, right? Let's say I really want to weather the storm, but it doesn't look like I'm going to because my income to my debt, etc. Well, I have a tremendous amount of control over what I spend and what I spend on.
True.
And a lot and one of the things I think has been great about your show, and one of the things I highlighted on mine, was how we can change our behaviors to suit our investment strategies, as opposed to having our investment strategies come from our current lifestyle. Yeah,
the lifestyle, which is, I mean, this is an easy play, right? An easy one to say, but try to live below your means. But some days it's not just about like what Dave Ramsey talks about. You millennials buying your Starbucks coffee, that's why you're broke. No, we're broke because there is too much money printing. The inflation is going crazy, especially after 2020, and people just aren't given the greatest opportunities. Well, that's really what it comes down to. And I think this is why, like in school, I was never taught about purchasing assets. And I think the ones that, and even like this, Steve Hanke was talking before. It was a piece on, I think it was either Yale or Harvard, and he said the people that get wiped out or that really suffered in 2020 were the ones that just got the stimulation checks, the stimmy checks. It was the people that understood about owning assets, buying those assets, holding on to them, and in 2021, either selling or going long. And it's true. Money's not going to get you anywhere. It's only going to depreciate. And that's why assets, and this is why I'd like people to stick around, but I can't tell them what to do. It's just how it is. Oh, that was a bummer. What do you got, Jerry?
I'm just going to say this one thought. You provide an important service in people like you. And that is, for centuries, financial literacy was passed down in the wealthy families. generationally. It was never a topic for public information. And unfortunately, it is still that way today. There are no public educations centered around financial literacy. However, instead of father passing down to son, we have YouTuber passing down to subscribership. That gives us an opportunity to further distribute these important pieces of info. Do you want to beat the game? You have to understand that the game is not built off of having money. It's having assets that beat the cost of money, cost of capital.
I got it. That's very true. And Farrar says it right. Most people own crypto or down. Remember, everyone who owns fiat is bag holding. Although I got to tell you, holding a bunch of cash is not a bad thing to have. I would say. I think it's actually, I think people would like that as we start to get into the negative aspects of the market. But yeah, Farrar is actually, I think, pretty right. And then Mullet catches it. So Dan is our dad. No, that is not what Jerry was saying. This is like that. This is like that time in on a Daily Talk show, and he says, "You are not the father. I am not definitely that." So
results are in. Dan is not your dad,
and Dan is not your dad. And I'm like, whoo, thank God. All right. So just to bring this home with what me and Jerry were talking about, I always like to point to this analogy. It's like you're playing Monopoly. And if you never buy any assets, you're always going to lose. You're always going to get onto Park Place or Boardwalk and get wiped out. But me personally, every time I played, I would just buy up these the cheapy places and be a slumlord. And I would put all those in. I would put hotels, and I would bankrupt everybody. It's my favorite thing to do with my family. It was great. So that is essentially what you're doing as far as like with assets. Just think of it like Monopoly, and that's it. But okay, so that's what is going on. Jerry brought this to my attention. Let's talk about what is going to happen. Jerry, bring this up for us. What are we watching?
So in this interview, Greg Asuri, Dr. Greg Asuri, the CEO of Akash being a crypto project that is about decentralized GPU distribution. Like, you can put up your compute. Akash is like a broker, and people who need compute plug into Akash and buy it. Okay, great. It's kind of like having Uber for computers on a large scale, and you don't need to actually drive. You just need to have the car, and they handle everything else for you. And so he's being interviewed, and one of the topics in this 4-minute clip here, they're talking about the need to have more distribution and decentralization in the electrical grid. So case in point, you've got a home, right? You've got this home, and you could put solar panels, or you can put, maybe you have, like me here in Costa Rica, I can do a hydroelectric generation next to my house, or I can do a windmill, whatever. I can generate electricity. I can power computers. I can use that compute for my own smart home, but create enough capacity to give the world the ability to buy my compute. And I can set the price depending upon what I want to set the price on. And it just really struck me as that next innovative wave that we have shared together so many times, of compute being the recipe of electricity running through a chip, powering software. That whole tech stack is where all the growth is going to occur, right? So how do we, knowing this information, follow a path of progress to capitalize on that? How can we benefit from this information? And so that video was just another one of these elements that really substantiates and validates my compute thesis that I've shared with you and others so often. I'm always looking to get my bias validated.
Of course, we're all looking for our own echo chamber. So that's why we're all here today on Sunday. So real quick, just to break it down before we look at this, as far as AI, what essentially is compute? We always go with this. I just want to break it down for the basics, because I just want to know. What's
compute is a process of taking electricity and running it through a chip, like an H100, an A100, a RAS, a RASN A5. It's a processor. So electricity running through a physical processor, that processor powering some software. Like in our case, what we're doing right now, it's powering voice over IP, video over IP, and that's compute. You can when AI is being used, it's electricity running through a chip powering an algorithm of some sort. Maybe it's a large language model or a generative AI model or something.
Gotcha. So what I want to do is we're going to play this video, and then Jerry, if you want me to stop it at some point to share some info, go ahead. This is about 4 minutes or so, and it's fascinating to think about how crypto digital assets fit into the compute component, and just how much we're actually lagging. That's what was fascinating to me. So take a listen to this.
Can you give us a sense of scale of not what's on the Akash network today, but what your sort of addressable market is? I mean, how that compares to the Googles and AWSs and Azures of the world?
Yeah, so there's no direct way to measure compute because there are too many dimensions to measure. But if you take down like the amount of energy being used, you can get a fairly good idea. Hyperscalers are limited by two main things. You need to have good energy and clean water in order to build a hyperscale data center, and that takes a very long time to acquire. It's very, very complex and very challenging environment to bring more data centers. In fact, look back, NVIDIA tried to build a hyperscale data center, and NVIDIA owns all the chips. Like the question you may ask is like, why wouldn't NVIDIA go to build a data center? They couldn't get more than 20 megawatt capacity. It's very, very hard to get capacity.
Okay, so right there, that was the big thing that I took away from that. I was like, NVIDIA is a is it $1 trillion company or just a multi-billion dollar company?
It's no doubt one of the top 5 in the world, right, and has all the room in the world to grow because we all know where this is going. So not only do they have it all now, but they look like they're positioned to be the biggest in the world at some point. Yeah, and if NVIDIA can't get a data center because they can only pump out so much electricity, what does that mean for the rest of us? And and make no mistake about it, I still say there's an AI arms race going on, just like there was an internet race going on to see who could bring it to the masses. Silicon Valley won, America won in that one, and now we're going to AI. And I see there's just a big battle between all the big players, China being one of them, America being the other one, and even India also in that running. So the question I have is so we're talking about this with Akash. Do you know somewhat how that works, Jerry, with Akash itself? Do they do compute, or do they do the ability to rent out like GPU space or something like that? They consider Akash like a broker. Okay. And so you have compute, you have H100s or A100s, or you have whatever, and you have capacity, but you don't have somebody who has the demand. So you're the supply side. You can plug into Akash and find people who want that. They have a demand for what you're supplying, and vice versa.
Gotcha. All right, so that was the first part. So where we're going in the future, that is one thing for sure. And then there was another one about as far as like energy and energy consumption, and this was a post from Melton Demers, thermodynamics enjoyer, and she states this is why the future of energy is distributed. It's simply not economically feasible any other way. Never seen a more not gonna make it chart. What are we looking at here, Jerry?
So what we're looking at is from 2013 to 2023, a 10-year sample size, the amount of new transmission lines, the actual physical infrastructure to move electricity from a generation site to the endpoint. All right. Yeah. That infrastructure is not growing despite the demand growing. So what does that tell you?
We need electricity.
that well, yes. And what it does is it's telling me it's opening the door to smaller and smaller generation sites.
I see.
If we know the demand is on a steady curve on the increase and the supply by the legacy world is diminishing, what does that open the door for? People like me and you to create supply because we know there's going to be a demand for it. What does that look like? That looks like me having a small hydroelectric facility on my house that supplies all my electricity that I need and enough to give out to sell. So instead of just doing, like most people, when they think of solar on their home, they're thinking about only powering their home. They're not thinking about extra capacity that they can sell or turn that electricity into compute by running it through a server rack and having a nice Starlink internet connection to provide compute supply to a network that the demand is only increasing up and to the right.
I got you. So, but that's just it. So what kind of ways can we produce that, Jerry?
You could, if you have a home or have land and it's feasible to have power generation, whether it be wind, solar, or hydroelectric, you may want to consider leveraging your collateral to create the ability to do that. But I think what we're looking at, Rob, is the ability to just buy a stock or a token, sit on it, have it make you wealthy. I think those days are going to start compressing dramatically. And it's the people who will continue to get wealthy will be providing what the world needs. In other words, utility will prevail over speculation or the efforts of others. I think people are going to have to start getting into and understanding how through their own efforts they can create wealth, as opposed to I'm going to get wealthy off of your hard work.
Yeah, makes sense. You know, I remember this coming. There was a documentary about Nikola Tesla and how he looked at energy and energy consumption. It wasn't the basis of what we have now, which is just one centralized organization providing power to the cities, the villages, the towns, or whatever else it is. It was actually small little power plants across the way. And this is a pretty good infographic how this works today, as opposed to like what me and Jared are talking about tomorrow as far as electronics. So today, few large power plants, which goes down. I don't know about you in Costa Rica, Jerry, but me in Puerto Rico, our electricity goes down all the time because it's one centralized player named Luma. And if Luma screws up, which it's not, there's a lot of factors, we'll just say that. But unfortunately, you see a lot of people that are losing power. And that's why there's such a big push here for solar power, which I think is going to take place for tomorrow. And I don't know if it's just solar. I don't think wind is the answer. Solar and nuclear. And of course, hydroelectric power. But if we can do more of those around the way, yeah, you can leverage that. Imagine being able to leverage your electricity, selling it back. I mean, that's what we do with solar panel right now. The problem is with solar power, like we pay around, I think it's like 24 to 26 cents per kilowatt hour here in Puerto Rico, which is kind of high. Some people say it's low, some people say it's high, whatever. But when you sell it back to to Luma, they give you like 5 to 7 cents. So I'm like, well,
Now switch that equation on its head. You don't sell back to Luma, who does not give you what it's worth. You take that electricity and you convert it into something else. Like, think of it like a miner takes electricity, runs it through an ASIC, and converts that electricity into Bitcoin. Well, what about you taking your spare capacity and turning it into AI compute?
Yeah, if you can do that.
Will you earn more than 5% per kilowatt hour? I guarantee you will, especially if you and I work together.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all plays out as the future comes in. It's just something of looking as far as like the future. Jerry loves this stuff because he's big into compute and AI and all that great stuff. And it's very nice hats, as a matter of fact. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome. So everybody, that's the show for today. We just want to take a look at what's going on now, what's going on hopefully in the future, and then just see how the market is. Again, the market's going to be rough for a while, I think, especially with April 2nd coming up with the reciprocal tariffs shooting off. And I think it's called, what do they call that? Liberation Day, as far as what Trump says. So we'll see. But I think even after that, we've got a couple of weeks or longer to see which ones actually hold steadfast and who's going to drop the tariffs and who's not. So just expect for some pretty big volatility. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's where I see things. But that's it for today. And now we'll get into a little Q&A. Let's see what everybody has got. All right. Yeah, Pirate Justin says, I pay 11 cents per kilowatt hour in Houston, Texas. Yeah, I got a pretty good grid. And of course, there's going to be somebody in the comments that says, it's an awful grid. There was that one snowstorm where all the electricity went out. Yes, it was a massive snowstorm. I think it was like once in a couple of decades snowstorm. So since I lived in Houston, I never had a power outage. But in Puerto Rico, it's pretty much weekly. So yeah. Let's see. This is a good one. Imagine listening to these fools for your portfolio. Well, let me ask you a question. What have we talked about that would have decimated your portfolio today? And the comments are open and I can just wait for that. But we'll get further questions. Hey, Jungle's here. Look at that.
Jungle.
SoCal is so expensive. I wish the power would go out so I can save on the electricity bill. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, Jungle. Yeah, my son lives there in Gardenia. It's super pricey. Texas Joe says, Rob, you still use? What's that?
Sorry. I was going to say Jungle is positioned in an area where solar actually might be, a solar element that is beyond the capacity that he needs. He may be in a perfect position to capitalize on that model.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It just depends. It depends on how much they're charging for those panels. It depends if you can buy them outright. It depends if you actually can rent them, and then what is the percentage rate that goes up over year. There's a lot of things to think about. That's for sure. Solstice says you guys have cheap power. Oh, hold on, back here. Robbie still DCAing. For Bitcoin, it went above the 0.5 level, so I stopped DCAing it as far as the risk levels go. But I've still got SWI, and Solana actually went over my threshold too. So if it goes down, I'll buy some more. But right now, I'm just trying to keep up with what I think is going to happen. So just SWI right now. Frosty says Rob doesn't DCA, Bobby handles that. No, Bobby doesn't DCA. Bobby just gamble. That's it. Let's see. Based says, hey, Rob and Jerry, I thought I'd try a new question. What suggestions do you have to stay full-time in the market? Meaning, I'm going to guess, what suggestions do you have so where you can, I guess, not sell?
Oh, that's easy. That's easy. Live within your means. So if you make $1 a day, spend 90 cents of it.
Spend 90 cents on?
If you earn $1 a day, then only spend 90 cents a day, and you'll be able to stay in the market.
That would mean like paying for your rent, paying for food, that type of thing, because then you got 10 cents to save. Or
if you can't afford rent, get a shovel and make a cave. No, I'm serious. I mean, people think I'm crazy. It's like if your goal is to stay in the market, you can. You just have to spend less than you need to live. And if you need to figure out new and creative ways to live more efficiently within your income structure, then do so.
Jerry, I'm not living in a
It's not a hard equation. Just most people aren't willing. Most people are not willing to be uncomfortable to acquire something they don't have.
No, that's true.
That's the truth, unfortunately. So Bailey, are you willing to sacrifice? And if you are, you're going to be fine.
I'm going to tell you right now, if it's between selling crypto and living in a cave, I'm selling crypto all day long. Sorry, I'm out. I can't do it.
I lived in a cave and I was willing to live in a cave.
What's that, Jerry?
I said, I lived in a cave and I'm willing to live in a cave. You saw that first place I was in.
That wasn't a bad. I think it had central air conditioning and indoor plumbing. That's a pretty big step. I'll take.
Okay, what's the best way to learn?
I don't know. I think to learn trading, Tom Crown's got a pretty good thing going on. I think he's got even like a free course. So go check out Tom Crown over on YouTube. Good guy. Good guy. He says, all right, I'm cave bound. I'm cave bound. Let's see.
He's going to go get a shovel.
I think Jerry says, I think the low will be made in April, then Bitcoin up. I think it comes down to tightening and quantitative easing and rates and tariffs. That's really what it is. Let's see here. Lauren says, when everybody calls Rob and not Dan, we are still not in the bull market. That's true. And the reason for that is because once all the tourists come in, they just kind of look for random YouTube channels like, and I'll always call him Dan because they don't know. Let's see. Franklin says, what's your thoughts on meme coin trading? Jerry, you want that one?
Good luck. That's my thoughts. That's a tough world. That's a tough world. Following trends. You got to be able to move on a dime, and you need to know something that 99% of the other people don't know a minute before they learn it. Tough.
Yeah, exactly. Tough. I would say for meme coins, my friend Bobby did really good. What he did was he bought it, and as soon as it doubled in price, which didn't take long, he just sold half. And then he'd be even, and then he'd wait for it to double again, and then he'd sell. And then he would wait for it to double again. And sometimes it would double, triple, quadruple. Sometimes it wouldn't. But as long as he got his initial funds out, he was doing quite well. He was very happy, actually. Ed says, funny, I saw a video of a guy that lives in a cave in the ground down in Mexico. Quite nicer than I thought, actually. Maybe something to it. What's Bobby's suggestion for full-time market participation? It's not like participant in the market is like, construction. You don't have to like show up at 6 a.m, break your back until 5, 6 at night. It's just go there, just research as much as you can for a project, believe in the project, and then start to invest into it. And then have a good strategy of layering in and layering out. That's how I see it. Jungle. I'm not doing the cave thing. I'm out. Exactly. I'm out too.
Well, Jungle's got a beautiful family to consider.
Yeah, exactly. When I was a kid, we lived in a shoebox in the middle of a highway, and we had to eat a lump of cold poison for supper. Whoops. Jerry, I think we're going in and out for the Wi-Fi.
Possible.
I think we are. Yeah, guys, I think that's it for today. I think there's something wrong with my Wi-Fi, but thanks for stopping by. We appreciate it. If you like Jerry and his cool hat, you can follow him on Twitter. Links in the description. And we'll do this again next Sunday to see if maybe something else turns around and we can sell something. But that's it for today, everybody. Thanks so much for stopping by. Appreciate you. Like and subscribe. See you guys on the next one.